Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Confident Parenting Podcast. If you're watching me on YouTube, hello. You can see me waving here or on Spotify. My name is Julie. I have 3 kids. I'm an occupational therapist by training, and today we're going to talk about my decision to stay home with my kids, effectively become a stay-at-home mom, now over 4 years ago, and the journey that led up to this, in case some of you might be struggling with this decision too, because I really have struggled. I'm not going to lie. And it's changed as my children have grown and time has passed. So let's jump straight into the episode. Make sure you subscribe, give this video a like, share it with anyone else who might be contemplating staying in a traditional job, maybe staying at home with their kids, why people might do certain things. And let's jump right into it. So a little bit of background about me. I studied occupational therapy. I'm from South Africa originally. I did my degree there. I moved to the States. I carried on as an occupational therapist. I did a subspecialty. I did exams. I did further education. I got a clinical doctorate in occupational therapy. And I worked for 10 years or so before I finally decided to resign from my job. It kind of coincided with us making a decision to leave New York City and to move to Austin, so I would have had to resign anyway. And right after I resigned, I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd baby. So the timing was good. I think by that point, I was incredibly burnt out. I'd been working full time with 2 young children, with a husband that worked a lot, traveled a lot, no local family, no family even 3 hours away, kind of like nothing. And I was done. I tried to resign, I think 3 times. We were also going through this little thing called a pandemic. It was a rough time. We didn't really know what was going to happen. We didn't know if my husband would lose his job, all the things. And I was just so ready for a change. And so I finally took the leap. I said goodbye to all of my friends and colleagues at that job that I'd been there for nearly 8 years, and we moved. We left New York, we started fresh, we had a brand new baby by the time we moved, and we moved to Austin, and we thought just like everybody else, and we kind of thought like, now this is it, right? And I was so happy to be home, to not be stressed out all the time. With my first 2 maternity leaves, it was just like a ticking time bomb, like just waiting for time to pass, and then I would have to make a decision about childcare or figure out what I was going to do. I was lucky in that the first time I went back after maternity leave, I went from a full-time job to a part-time job. So I took, I kind of veered off a different path. And then as fate would have it, by the time I came back from my second maternity leave, if I wanted to be promoted in a certain job, I needed to come back full-time. So I was working full-time, got pregnant, worked right up until my due date, basically, had a baby. I was lucky to get 6 months off, which is a lot, even though it wasn't paid. So it was unpaid leave, but it was cheaper for me to stay at home, and it meant more for me to stay at home with my baby. And I was like exclusively breastfeeding the whole thing, than to now put him in daycare or hire a nanny or something. But we ended up having to hire a nanny, and I worked 2 long days a week. So I worked like a half time, like 20 hours a week, which I managed to cram into 2 days and spend time with him. And then by the time my second child was born, we'd been working on a project that was going to require someone to be more full-time. And if I wanted that job, I needed to come back full-time. So I went back to work full-time with 2 small kids. It was, at least for me, a lot. And I know people do it all the time. And it's hard to know, everyone has unique situations and circumstances. I just felt with someone, living in New York where we had no support system except whatever we were prepared to pay for. So we had we had a nanny they're very expensive just inherently. She wasn't, just by nature of it. I basically felt like my whole salary went to her salary, which is true. And it did, basically. I had to remind myself that these children were not just mine, and my husband and my salaries were kind of contributing to her salary. Because you get to the point where it's like, why am I even working? It's not even worth it for me. I'm not earning enough money that it really moves the needle, that it makes sense for me to be working for the money. Now, there's so many different reasons to work besides just financial incentive. I think my healthcare was through our healthcare as a family was through my job. So that is not something that's insignificant. Healthcare can be incredibly expensive. And because I worked in healthcare, it was really, really good. So that is part of it. I mean, I got some vacation time, I got sick time, whatever, but man, it was so stressful. It was such a stressful period of my life. I do not really remember my second child's babyhood. I went back to work after she was 6 months old, just like the first one. And now by that point we had 2 kids. So it's like, everyone knows if you've had a second kid, it's not 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's like 1 + 1 = 15 or 100. So intense. My husband's career is kind of heating up. I don't know. I don't really understand everything he does. It was just rough. I had a baby in winter in New York. I don't think I had any postpartum depression per se, but I had the circumstances surrounding like my maternity leave with her and it being dark and cold. I felt nervous about returning to work. We had a nanny for my son when I was working. And so we still had her. And then one day she didn't show up for work and I think she'd be drinking. So we had no more nanny. We had to get rid of her basically as soon as my daughter was born. So I had no help. And I didn't want to go hire a new nanny. So I had the 2 little kids. My son was going to school, but only like 2 days a week, 2 mornings a week. So I didn't have any break from him really. It was just a dark period. My husband was working a lot. I almost killed my dog accidentally because I left chocolate in a bag to give to a friend for saying thank you for giving me some baby clothes, and she found the chocolate and ate it, and she's a 11-pound miniature dachshund, so that was frightening. I had to call the poison line. I had to make her vomit. If ever you need that, this is totally off the topic, but if ever you need to induce vomiting in a child or an animal, you just need 5 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide. You squirt it in with a syringe and you'll puke up whatever you ingested. So if they eat Tide Pods, or a dog, in this case, eating chocolate or something that it shouldn't eat, I swear I saved my dog's life. But I also was the reason why she ate the chocolate in the first place. So it was an accident. But it was a dark time. And yeah, I don't really remember my daughter's, I don't remember potty training her. I remember her not sleeping and us being desperate. It was rough. And it was so hard for me because I really wanted to do a good job at work. I really wanted to. I'm a people pleaser. I've done episodes about this. I really wanted people to be proud of me. I was doing a project that was new and exciting and hadn't been done before. Then we had the pandemic. It was gnarly. I don't even know how I survived a lot of the time. I used to have these dreams, these nightmares of not getting to work on time, because then they introduced a clocking in system where you had to clock in before your shift. So there's a record of when you clock in, which is fine. You should be at work before your first patient, right? But it just caused me so much stress. And I would have these dreams about going to a job site, a different location, and then trying to log in and my login not working and I couldn't get in, and I'm trying to get in and I'm here at work. I promise I made it, because it was such a stress. I wouldn't sleep, and then I'd have to wake up early. And I was doing this 5 days in a row versus part-time, have a day off, day on, day off. It was just a lot. And then dealing with kids when I got home, and never mind anything else in my life, like health or my social life or my marriage or, oh my gosh. And I do wonder, could I have done it differently? I don't know. Healthcare in and of itself, is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's a difficult job when you have little children, or you have kids that are going to a school and they have long vacations and they need someone at home. We needed 3 parents, which essentially was the nanny, but it just broke me. It broke my heart that now I was paying someone my whole salary to take care of my kids when they didn't ask to be here. I really wanted to be a mom, and I wasn't physically there, and anyway, I have notes for this, and I almost feel like I don't even need them, because there's just so many things that I want to touch on that really impacted me as a person. So anyway, so I do this now for 3 years, and then I'm finally, or just under 3 years, where I'm working a lot with the 2 kids full time. I've been working, I mean, my son is probably 5 or 6, nearly 6 at this point. But so I've been working and parenting for 5.5 years or so. And now I've been doing the full-time thing, which so many people do. Kudos to them. Because I just couldn't do it. I tried to resign 3 times. And I mean, look, I loved and I still love my work family. And I still kind of romanticize that time. You know, we were kind of in the trenches together. We had a lot of fun. This is also like the highlight times where a lot of us did not have kids yet. I was one of the first ones to have a baby, which is difficult in and of itself because people just can't understand until they're in it. And we had such a fun time. It was very social. You spend a lot of time with these people. You bond over all the craziness that you see. And those were my friends. I mean, I was spending so much time with these people that, you know, you develop very deep friendships with them. And now, considering I started working at that particular job in 2012, it's now 2024. I've known these people for 12 years. And some of them I've gotten to know really, really well. So it was like a massive part of my friendship group and my identity as a person. And then I had a baby, and then I had another baby, and then I had another baby. And, you know, when you quit your job and you think you're going to stay home with your kids, and it is, I mean, depends who you speak to, because I don't think you can really win in this situation. Like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if you're a working mom, it's always idealized to stay at home with your kids and have the flexibility, at least in my life, and just the way I was brought up and everything. And then you will have days, many days, where you're staying home with your kids and it's really hard. It's tough. Like, some parts are easier. Like, maybe you don't need to be getting out of bed at 5 a.m. to get dressed and get ready and like commute to a job, right? Maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe, you know, you can wait until a little bit later in the morning, or you can dress kind of like this. You can be in comfortable clothes as a mom. Like, you don't have to be wearing business suits and stuff. Maybe you're not traveling for work anymore, or having to, I don't know, present things and like speak to other people. And maybe if your kids go to school by that point, you know, if you haven't slept the night before, you can nap when the baby naps or something, which you can't do if you are at a job. But it's still really hard. And then you're like, did I make the right choice? Because I don't think my kids really appreciate me giving up my career for them. And I think this is like uniquely female for a lot of the time. I mean, there are obviously going to be dads that don't work because of their, that's what they've decided for their family. They need to stay at home for their kids. But for the most part, it's women. And my husband just does not have these dilemmas. He deals with other stress. So it's not about me comparing whose stress is worse. But he doesn't feel like he has a choice. He needs to work to support our family. I also chose a profession that I don't feel like is very well remunerated. And if I had to do it all over again, I don't know. I think I love health and the body and the medical field to a degree, but I think I would have chosen differently because my salary doesn't really move the needle for us, really. Now it's a little bit different because my kids are at school, so I have a chunk of time where in theory I could return to work, but not in a full-time capacity. There's absolutely no way. Not in the way that I know how healthcare works. I would still need to hire a nanny to pick them up from school and drive them around and stuff. And now that they go to school, I don't even see them all day. So then the guilt of like, well, I don't see them all day, and now I'm hiring someone else to see them in the afternoons to look after them so that I can work. It just like doesn't add up. Like the math doesn't math. Is that the term that people use? It's so hard. It's so hard. I struggle fairly regularly with like, have I made the right choice? Am I wasting my degree? All the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. My licensing and everything. Like, there's just a lot that you feel like it's a sunk cost now, but have I wasted it? Should I be trying to do it all? Should I be working and parenting? And then you look back, at least I look at my life and I reflect. And I've spoken about this a lot. As an occupational therapist, we're really good at analyzing a situation. And I just need to analyze it more, like objectively for me. But I know that if I had to now ladle a job which does not have flexibility, like it's not a job that I am in control over, on top of what I have to do, I would be so stressed out. And I don't know if I would handle it better or worse now that I'm older, maybe worse. I don't know. But what happens when your child is sick? Like, I had a child home from school last week. What do I do? What happens now? My kids have a holiday coming up from school. what do I do? There are all kinds of things, and it's unusual unless you're a teacher in a school system to have the same vacation as your children. And I found that really tough because my kids would have 2.5 months off over the summer. Of course, I want to spend time with them and I want to be able to travel and just take it easy a little bit. But no one's getting that amount of time off from their kids in a traditional job, and definitely not in healthcare. As I said, 24/7, 365 days of a year. And I felt like, considered the circumstances, my time off was fairly generous. Like, it was pretty good for the industry. It wasn't, I had more than 10 days, which is what is very typical. But someone once said to me that having children and the school system, it's designed for one parent to stay at home. Because kids only go to school for about 9 months of the year. And within that time, they have so many holidays and breaks, so much more. And rightly so, they're kids. They have so much more than working parents, that the school system was never designed with two working parents in mind. It was always designed with the mom being at home, usually. I just found it incredibly stressful. I think if I maybe had the family support and I had a backup, because even if you have a nanny or even daycare to a degree, you still need backup. Like with daycare, if your child is not well, they cannot go to daycare. Someone needs to stay at home with them, or you need someone to come and look after them. If you have a nanny and the nanny calls out sick or something happens, or she has something in her family, you need a backup for that too. I struggle to even get date night babysitters, and not to say that you can't find great people for your family. Of course you can, but they're human and they have things that come up as well. And I just, from a personality perspective, struggle so much to let people down that I'd almost just rather not engage, which is not good. It's clearly a lesson that I have to learn, that I can say no in order to prioritize me, and the world's not going to crumble and fall apart. I've had that come up several times recently where I've had to what I perceive as disappointing people, and it's fine. We move on. But it is not easy. And I don't know what will happen. I think now that my little one is 3, she's in a different life stage. She's not a baby anymore. I'm definitely questioning what I want to do moving forward. And unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not one of these people that can just sit at home and do nothing. I want more out of this. I want to use my brain in some way. I want to make money to support my family. And I want to make my children proud. They don't understand my decisions. They probably would understand me working more because a lot of their friends' parents work. And it's kind of heart-wrenching for me in a way, because it's they just see me as I'm just a mom. Even though that's such a powerful thing and I'm here to advocate for moms, but I want to show them that I can make something of myself too, which means they can as well. So it's tough. It's a tough thing that I find myself in. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what I'm going to do moving forward. I would need the right opportunity for my family where I feel like I can juggle both. The other span in the works is that my husband travels a lot, which means we can't reliably share who drops the kids off at school, who picks them up. And a work day is longer than a school day a lot of the time, or the time it would take me to go pick them up from school. And the type of work that I have traditionally been trained for is in-person work. I need to go to a place to do the work, I think things are becoming more flexible, and there's more elements of being able to work from home and maybe making your own schedule. And there's certainly those things that exist in different settings. And I'm sure I could find something like that if I looked hard enough. But it just seems like a lot that I'm not ready for, that I'm not ready to commit. And I was talking to my friend about this, who's also an occupational therapist. She has 2 kids. They're the same age as my older 2. And she was saying she does not feel guilty because that she's not working currently, because she and her husband made this decision together. They moved cities so that they could be in an optimal place for his job, and they are prioritizing their kids, and they think this is what is best for the kids, to have her at home managing the children's lives. And also he works long hours. He doesn't travel so much as my husband does, but he's out the house till he comes home sometimes after they're asleep. So it's effectively she's on her own, and she needs to be able to have an open schedule for all of the things that children require, driving them here and picking them up from this and extra this and sport here and lessons here and activities and birthday parties and events and theater practice and whatever all the things are that they require. It's so hard to like do both of those things, parenting and working properly, at least for me. And I would love to hear what you guys do and what you feel, and if you've also made the decision to stay home with your children, and how does it make you feel, and is it what you expected? So I think also going into it, when you're so miserable in a certain situation, you romanticize and fantasize about what another situation might be like. And if that doesn't live up to your imaginary fantasy, you're going to be sorely disappointed and question your life's choices, question whether you made the right decision. And I have to tell myself that yes, even though motherhood and just day-to-day life is not glamorous and often really tough, and like after 30 minutes I like want to break from my kids, ultimately on the balance it's the right choice for our family now, because someone needs to be home to man the fort, to kind of keep track of things. And I don't know if I have it in me to work and do that. And just not, I'm working for what? Like, I'm just not working for enough compensation to make it worth it, because I would need to hire help. So it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. Am I making excuses? Let me know. I'd be very curious to hear what your decisions are and if you have peace with this decision, because I don't really. I learned so much as an occupational therapist. I learned so much as a hand therapist. I still use my knowledge every day. I'm basically my family doctor. And there was such a big part of my identity wrapped in that, and like the knowledge that I gained and the skills, and I'm giving them all up, and it feels it's hard for me to reconcile all of that. So with all of that said, that's my little spiel for today. I'm curious to know your experience with working or staying at home as a mom. I wish we could have more flexibility, or if I wish it was more of the norm and it wasn't so difficult to find. I think there are other countries and places that have done this better than us. And maybe that's part of that stems from like having longer maternity leaves, like right off the bat, so that you can get through that first year of early childhood and feel like you can keep going. Like 6 months just wasn't enough time for me. Plus I wasn't getting paid. It just felt like this is not enough, you know? I had a colleague tell me, oh, just as they get cute, you have to come back to work. And I'm just like, that is like, punch in the gut. Because like once a baby's around 6 months old, yeah, they're smiling and they're sitting and they're considering moving and they babble at you and they're so cute and sweet. And then you're at work all day and then you're tired and you come home and give them your tired self. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like I can't win. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.